Imagine ruling the most powerful empire on earth. Gold pouring in from the Americas. Armies feared across Europe. A navy so massive people believed it could never be defeated. Now imagine the man controlling all of it, marrying his own niece. Not in secret, not as a scandal hidden in the shadows, but publicly, officially, blessed by the church, celebrated by nobles. And the most shocking part? This wasn't considered the strangest thing royal families were doing at the time. Before we dive into the main story, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell notification button for more interesting video like this. Because in the courts of Europe, power mattered more than bloodlines, and the obsession with pure royal blood would slowly create one of the most genetically damaged dynasties in history. This is the terrifying true story of Philip II of Spain and Anna of Austria. A marriage that symbolized the rise and eventual decay of the mighty House of Habsburg. And by the end of this story, you'll understand how one royal family became so obsessed with keeping power inside the bloodline that it may have helped destroy an empire from within. Because this marriage didn't just shock Europe. It created consequences that would echo for generations, ending with one of the most tragic kings in history. To understand why this marriage happened, you first need to understand the world of Philip II of Spain. By the late 1500s, Spain was not just a kingdom. It was a global superpower. Philip ruled territories across parts of Italy, the Netherlands, huge sections of the Americas, the Philippines, and vast overseas colonies. People used to say, the sun never sets on the Spanish Empire. Because somewhere in the world, Spanish land was always under sunlight. Philip inherited this empire from his father, Charles V, one of the most powerful rulers Europe had ever seen. But with enormous power came enormous paranoia. Europe in the 1500s was exploding with religious wars, political betrayals, assassinations, rebellions, and dynastic struggles. A single marriage could start a war, unite kingdoms, destroy alliances, or create future kings. Royal marriage wasn't about love. It was political warfare. And nobody played that game more aggressively than the Habsburgs. The House of Habsburg had one terrifying belief. Outsiders could not be trusted. The family believed royal blood had to remain pure. So instead of marrying into distant noble families, they kept marrying each other. First cousins, uncles and nieces, close relatives again and again across generations. At first, it seemed brilliant. The strategy allowed the Habsburgs to keep power centralized, preserve wealth, control territories, avoid rival claims to the throne. Their motto practically became, let others wage war. You, fortunate Austria, marry. And it worked. For a while. But biology doesn't care about empires. Every generation became genetically closer, and the effects slowly became horrifying. Historians and genetic researchers later discovered that many Habsburg rulers suffered from infertility, physical deformities, mental illness, severe illnesses, developmental problems. One famous feature became known across Europe, the Habsburg jaw, an enlarged jaw caused by generations of inbreeding. Portraits from the era show rulers with swollen lips, elongated faces, difficulty closing their mouths. People whispered about it in royal courts. But nobody dared openly challenge the dynasty, because the Habsburgs controlled too much of Europe. And then came the marriage that shocked even hardened nobles. By 1570, Philip II of Spain desperately needed stability. His personal life had already become tragic. Several of his wives had died. His son, Don Carlos, was deeply unstable and considered dangerous. Some historians believe Don Carlos suffered from severe mental and physical conditions linked to generations of royal inbreeding. The prince reportedly displayed violent behavior, paranoia, instability, cruelty. At one point, Philip had his own son imprisoned, and Don Carlos later died in confinement. The incident horrified Europe. Rumors spread everywhere. Did Philip murder his own son? Was the royal family cursed? Was madness consuming the Habsburg bloodline? Philip now needed A new wife, new heirs, and stronger dynastic security. So who did he choose? His own niece, Anna of Austria. Anna was the daughter of Philip's sister. That means Philip was both her uncle and later her husband. Even for European royalty, this raised eyebrows. But politically, the marriage made perfect sense to them. It strengthened ties between the Spanish and Austrian branches of the Habsburg family. No outside family would gain influence. No rival dynasty could claim power. Everything stayed within the blood. And that exact mindset would become catastrophic. In 1570, the marriage officially took place. Anna of Austria was only in her early 20s. Philip II of Spain was significantly older and already one of the most feared rulers in Europe. The wedding was extravagant. Lavish ceremonies, royal celebrations, religious blessings. But beneath the gold and silk, there was tension. Because Europe already knew something was wrong with the Habsburg bloodline. And yet the family continued doubling down on the exact practice causing the problem. Still, the marriage appeared successful at first. Anna and Philip reportedly developed genuine affection for each other. She gave birth to multiple children. Most importantly, a future heir, Philip III of Spain. For Philip II, this seemed like victory. The dynasty was secured. The empire would continue. But the deeper issue remained untouched. Every generation of close relative marriage intensified the genetic damage accumulating inside the royal family. And the worst consequences hadn't arrived yet. Not even close. Royal families across Europe often practiced intermarriage. But the Habsburgs took it further than almost anyone else. Modern historians and scientists studying royal genealogy discovered something chilling. The Habsburg family tree became so tangled, it almost looked like a circle. Repeated marriages between close relatives dramatically increased the chances of inherited disorders. And generation after generation, the symptoms became harder to ignore. Children died young. Some heirs were infertile. Others suffered severe disabilities. Court physicians struggled to explain what they were witnessing. Back then, genetics didn't exist as a science. People blamed curses, divine punishment, weak humors, bad luck. But today we understand what was happening. The family's genetic diversity was collapsing. And the empire built on preserving bloodlines was literally poisoning itself. Ironically, the obsession with protecting royal power may have guaranteed the dynasty's decline. But the final tragedy would arrive decades later, through a child descended from generations of Habsburg inbreeding. A king so physically damaged that he became the ultimate symbol of dynastic collapse. More than a century after Philip II married his niece, the consequences fully exploded. Enter Charles II of Spain, possibly the most infamous product of Habsburg inbreeding. Charles II was severely ill throughout his life. Historical accounts describe horrifying conditions: difficulty speaking, difficulty eating, developmental delays, chronic sickness, infertility, physical weakness. Some reports claim he could barely rule independently. Modern researchers studying the Habsburg family estimated that Charles II's genetic similarity was so extreme, he was genetically closer to the child of siblings than typical royal cousins. And when Charles II died without an heir in 1700, it triggered a massive international crisis. The result? The War of the Spanish Succession. Europe exploded into war over who would inherit the Spanish Empire. Millions suffered. Entire alliances shifted. And the once dominant Spanish Habsburg dynasty collapsed forever. The bloodline that spent centuries trying to preserve itself ended itself. Today, the marriage between Philip II of Spain and Anna of Austria sounds unbelievable. But in their world, it was considered strategy. That's what makes the story so disturbing. The people involved weren't monsters in the way modern audiences imagine. They genuinely believed they were protecting stability, divine rule, dynastic survival, political order. But their obsession with control blinded them to reality. And history keeps teaching the same lesson. When powerful people become obsessed with preserving power at all costs, they often create the very disaster they're trying to avoid. The marriage of Philip II and Anna of Austria wasn't just royal gossip. It became a warning about unchecked power, about dynasties, and about what happens when rulers try to control nature itself. Because the Habsburgs believed their bloodline made them chosen by God. But by the end, their own bloodline destroyed them. And here's the creepiest part. Some historians believe the signs of collapse were obvious for generations. Yet nobody stopped it. Not the kings. Not the nobles. Not even the church. Because when an empire becomes powerful enough, people stop questioning it, even when it's destroying itself from the inside. So the next time you hear someone say history repeats itself, remember the empire that ruled the world and collapsed because it kept marrying itself. For more videos like this, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.